Have you ever looked at food and thought of how it would affect your weight? Not all foods you might think will always do that, and I bet you don't know how it happens. I have done research into the relationship between obesity and bad eating. Obesity and bad eating go hand in hand, but not all bad foods cause obesity, and how it happens is mostly unknown. I will talk about the relationship between obesity and bad eating, what foods are actually bad to eat, how bad eating isn't the only cause, and what actually happens when you eat the food. So what foods actually count as bad eating? According to Bethany Thayer in her article about foods, bad foods contain high levels of fats, salts, and or sugars. They lack good things like nutrients, and nutrients is things like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Examples of bad foods include soft drinks, fast foods, alcohol, and processed foods. A lot of foods will also market themselves as healthy, but are not. A good example of that is sports drinks. And some foods people think are healthy, but they really aren't, and they aren't even always marketed as healthy. And that's things like some yogurts, granola, peanut butter, milk, and energy bars. I'm not saying that all of those things aren't healthy, but some of them are, and they can be marketed as such. How do these bad foods actually cause obesity? According to Health Direct, in an article about how junk food affects your health, bad eating is the main cause of obesity. And it's very dangerous because it's extra bad when mixed with other things, and other things are extra bad when mixed with bad eating. And a lot of these other things are overlooked, and some are really well known, and yet it's still causing obesity. One that's often overlooked is sleep. Insufficient sleep causes an increase in appetite and more hormonal changes, making you want to eat more. And so it's suggested to get 7 or more hours of sleep, and to get that regularly to stop that from happening. One that a lot of people know about but still fall into is physical activity. If you're not physically active, then you don't burn the calories and fats you've eaten. It's suggested to have about 2.5 hours or 150 minutes of exercise to burn off the recommended amount of things that you need to. And it's extra dangerous because if you combine no exercise with bad eating, it means you're taking in more calories, fats, salts, the bad stuff, without doing anything to get rid of them, so then they're just staying in your body. There are also some things that are uncontrollable, things like genetics. Some genes vary from person to person and change how your bodies turn food into energy and store fat. Another thing is your appetite. It will affect how much you want to eat. An extreme case would be something like Prader-Willi syndrome, where you just have constant hunger and you just always want to be eating. And then there's things like environmental factors. Restricted access to foods that are good for you is outside your control, so you can't do anything about it. And you could have also learned bad habits from growing up, and those habits can stay through your entire life and can be very difficult to change, especially if you've been doing them your entire childhood. What actually happens when you eat these bad foods? An article about how people become overweight from Harvard Health Publishing says that when you eat food, your body digests the things you eat and breaks them down into their simplest forms, which are the things I listed earlier. When you eat an excess amount of calories, for example, the extra is stored as adipose tissue. Those are special fat tissues, and they are either enlarged or they make just more of them in order to fit all the extra calories that you've taken in. Sugars go into your bloodstream, and if you have too much, it damages your cells and tissues, especially the ones that are in your bloodstream. This damage causes plaque to build up, and that plaque increases your risk of heart attacks and strokes. And that's one reason that heart attacks and strokes are associated with obesity so often. And salt is one that just makes your body retain more water, therefore just adding more weight overall. So bad eating is the leading cause of obesity, but it isn't the only thing that causes it, and other things can be just as bad, especially when they're mixed. Obesity and bad eating go hand in hand, but not all of these bad foods cause obesity, and how it happens is mostly unknown when it gets down to its simplest form. But now I hope that I've informed you. So next time you look at food, you can think about what it does in its simplest form, how it'll affect your health, and if you really need it overall. Thank you. This is my outline